Good afternoon. Happy Sunday. Happy 3-day weekend. What is going on, people? What is going on? Music for me. Yeah, we're back. I had to cancel the stream on Wednesday. I was hoping to hop in, but had some stuff come up. So we're gonna jump right into it today. Doesn't mean I hadn't been working on stuff, because I actually trying to crack one of the other core mechanics of this class. There's been a lot of changes since the last time I worked on the Puppeteer. Lots and lots of changes. So I'll go over them right now. Yeah, there's just a lot of big changes to what we're going to be doing with the class now. Instead of the unique spell casting, we're going to become a pack caster. Made some switches, but before I really jump into all of this, I want to talk about sponsor of today's stream, Skyzephyrs, really quick. Let me see. So Skyzephyrs, it is currently up on Kickstarter right now. It is live. It is already funded. Skyzephyrs is a third-party 5th edition product by father and son team Homie and the Dude, who cover TTRPGs and MMA content. So if you're into both of those, there's a good cross section with their channel that you'll get a little bit of both. They do live actual plays and also live actual plays for 5e and TTRPGs, and then also interview MMA fighters, which you wouldn't think they'd mix, but it's pretty interesting. The Skyzephyrs aims to bring players, ship, and aerial combat rules to 5th edition that complements but doesn't bog down 5e combat. So if you weren't satisfied with the rules found in Spelljammer, for example, this hopes to give you a little bit more meat, but also not make it so it just doesn't flush random, like just doesn't run fluid with your games. So along with the book, they're also offering a digital tool to help you run the mechanics to make it even easier. So instead of just having the book right on your side, you can have a digital assistant that can help just smooth things over for you. I think that's very daunting whenever adding any third-party system, because third-party systems tend to be a little bit more crunchier, a little bit more meatier, giving you a little bit more depth that is often lacking within the core of 5e. So yeah, so this is pretty much helping you run it alongside. So yeah, Kickstarter is live now. Go there. It is finishing in the middle of this month. I think it's like another 2 weeks it got going on. So you go there, you kick it, you kickstart it, you support me, you support them, everybody wins. You get some cool stuff. So definitely go check them out. There is a link in the description. Hey, what's going on? What's going on, Nick? What's going on, David? Drinking my coffee here. Hey, what's going on, Taryn? Yeah, we had a our session last night. We're doing a little bit. It's supposed to be a 1-shot, but it's now a 3-shot. Yeah, and we're playing a bunch of Herringon. It's freaking hilarious. Just because David here in the chat decided to make a samurai rabbit, a samurai Herringon, and then another buddy of mine made a Chronergy wizard Herringon because he wanted to be pretty much the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. So I originally was gonna play an Astral Elf Zodiac. Zodiac is a third-party class done by Indestructible Boy. His most recent, so definitely go check it out. It's up on the DM's Guild. It has been super fun to play. If you want the play into that magical transformation girl, sort of like Sailor Moon or like Saint Seiya, this class lets you kind of really do that. It's been fun. And then I decided to switch my Astral Elf into a Herringon, so now I'm a Celestial Rabbit, which has been fun. Damn, I didn't get home till 4 a.m. with all the damage in Nylon. That is crazy. Oh man. And you're still up, dude. I'd be asleep right now. I didn't pass out till like 3. No, I got home like around, we wrapped up like around 2 a.m. We had a long session. But yeah, it's been fun. Ooh, just rolled over silver bestseller too. Nice, congrats, man. That's sick. Yeah, I'm playing which one? I'm playing Sign of the Chalice, which is the healer spec. It's been interesting. I will share my notes with you. I will share my notes with you on it. I like it, but it's very, very... It's a class that, or a subclass that's very swingy in a way that you either gonna not do your subclass stuff, or when you do your subclass stuff, you do your like you're really, really good at it. So it's gonna appeal to people that that are okay with that kind of feeling of that subclass. I think if I were to play the Zodiac again, I'd probably go Archer, because that one looks ridiculous. And also Dragon. Sign of the Dragon fits like my playstyle. The Sign of the Hand, though, is probably like the most interesting one. I saw that because weaponizing Mage Hand just to like do celestial punches is sick. Yeah, I really like all the subclasses. I think Chalice. I'm playing a healer because our group doesn't have a healer, and I think if you're for that subclass to compete with, like, say, Life Cleric, or what's the other? It's the Druid one. Pretty much one of the healing druids. I don't think it's at the same level of consistent healing, but when it heals, it's like, it's good. Yeah, when it heals, it's good. We had a little bit of a fight with two giants yesterday, and then one of the giants picked up one of our other buddies. He finally joined in. He was playing a bard, Paragon. He got chucked into our wizard, so I went cure wounds our wizard, who got really damaged, and then able to like heal the other guy and get them both back to full with just like one spell slot. It was sick. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. But yeah, I think that's like my only real critique of like the Chalice one, is that it is, if your team isn't really doing a lot of that, like not really getting hit, you might not feel like you're doing too much being able to heal. But then when your team does get hit, you're healing. You're really healing. Palm Villain. Ooh, yeah. All right, so we're right here. Yeah, that's the healer corner. Yeah. And also too, like, I'm coming out of Baldur's Gate 3, right? And then I have a Life Cleric. Regardless of what I do, I always respect Shadowheart into a Life Cleric. And it seems like combat, obviously a video game. It's not really 5e, it's a video game version of 5e. That healing is a lot more important there, because the way that they structure combat, which doesn't translate well, or translate directly to 5e table play combat. Yeah, exactly. Healing is always important. Yeah. Yeah. So we're like, yeah. So that's one of the things I think a critique of Baldur's Gate 3, where they make healing, they do a good job of making healing important in there, where like it's somewhat of a consistent thing. But compared to 5e, like table play, that it's very, very different, where you might not always be doing it. But yeah, I'm still enjoying the class. I just know my personal play style, I would probably like Archer or Dragon a lot for my play style, but I'm still enjoying the class. It's been fun. Didn't find a use for the Mayo. You can create a couple Mayo with the Chalice class. I didn't get a use out of that, but that healing drought that you can create came in clutch. Yeah, we weren't in the kitchen again, so we were in a giant stronghold, and there was a kitchen, and we didn't get a chance to sneak back into there. So we're gonna do something at Mayo, man. All right, so where we're at with the Puppeteer. Okay, last time I pretty much showed it to everybody, which was last Sunday, was that it had its own spellcasting progression, had its own spellcasting system. It was gonna be some sort of like spell point generating class. I opted out of it and decided to go Packcaster, and it just made things a lot easier and a lot smoother to really figure out what we're supposed to be doing with the class while still maintaining the thematics and functionality we wanted. I think part of the problems with what we were doing with that spell point generation system and trying to find these performances that would help you build up these points so you can cast spells. The problem I think we found was that essentially we just wanted to cast spells to begin with. So even if we had performance-based abilities that generated points, all they were going to do was be various versions of cantrips. And at that point, if that was going to be the case, why don't we just give you cantrips? Right? For me, it's like, why go this roundabout way to make you do something and give you like cantrip-like abilities when you can just get cantrips that still are thematic and make sense and are flavorful and fun for the class. Sometimes simpler is better. I don't know what they did with my pumpkin cream cold brew, but Starbucks, you made this really super sugary. Dang. I don't know what it is. So with that said, with our pat casting, we move a lot of stuff around. We're going to get our subclass at first level. So that will be all under Enchanted Puppet. So Enchanted Puppet is the subclasses for this. First level, you get to pretty much pick your marionette puppet that you're wanting. And then there's some baseline rules on how the puppet functions that will function for all classes, with each subclass probably adding a difference, adding some features that are going to be that'll be varied. All right. So we're going to do your puppet is a magical object. You still need a bonus action to summon it. You can have it up to 30 feet away from you, but if it exceeds that 30 feet, it becomes destroyed. Bonus action, you can cast it again. It only has 1 HP. There's going to be, I want to add in options that will change the hit point for it. But the very fact that you can always just recast it or pretty much resummon it as a bonus action with really no worries, also doesn't make me worried about 1 hit point. Also, since it is an object, not a construct or creature, it does get around certain targeting abilities that from spells. They can't avoid it because a lot of targeted spells target creatures and don't target objects. But there still are a few spells out there that still just target things and then can target objects. So, yeah. So we're good there. Spellbound, you can also use it as our arcane focus and cast your spells through it. So yeah, that is where we're at with Enchanted Puppet. And then we got Stage Magic. So this is our pat casting setup. So you're gonna get some cantrips, you get some spell slots. Gonna be what you know and love there for the standard pat casting. And then right now what we're working on is pretty much the second level feature. And then I need to fix this because there is going to be a second level feature here for subclasses too. Okay. So what we're trying to figure out right now is like the best way to implement part of the like a mobile AoE. So there isn't really a class that does this in 5e in terms of playstyle, having this AoE that you put down and either debuffs or buffs everybody around it. Part of the problem I'm attempting to avoid is the turtle problem. So if you have a really strong like aura like effect, a mobile aura, and it does a really good buff mechanic, your entire party is going to turtle and just want to sit in that area. So what I'm aiming to do is make it more of a mobile aura that debuffs. That it's through your performance with your puppet that you have maneuvered out. Any enemies that are around it are going to get debuffed based off the performance, either some sort of distraction or whatever. So this is what spell binding performance is becoming. So I have various versions that I'm trying to like figure and nail down what exactly is going to work in terms of like flow. Excuse me. Okay, dismiss. All right, it's in blue. Okay. Yeah, like pretty much we only see this mobile aura effect. And what I mean by mobile, it's like Paladin has aura effects, but essentially what their role is to stand in the middle of the group and then put the aura out either in a debuff way or in a buffing way. And while that's cool, like you're the main aura, it's easier to track. The druid has two subclasses that offer the same style of gameplay that I'm looking for in a core class mechanic, which is the shepherd druid, and also the one that they came out in the Taldori Reborn, the blight druid. Yeah. So that is and I really liked how the blight druid had this mechanic where pretty much they put like this blighted land that they can move around, and then their features is triggered off of it. Enemies come in there and they pretty much they can summon stuff. I thought that was really neat. That would be a cool play style for a class, and I always struggled to figure out how do you wrap that in a pretty much what thematics do you wrap that in, what fantasy applies to that. And then finally, for me, I was like, oh, a puppeteer. You have this kind of puppet that goes in there, creates performances around it, and that kind of creates that mobile aura. Yeah, now I'm typically really careful with auras. Not only does it step on paladin surf, but it can encourage some unintended play styles more often than not. Yeah. So that's one thing we're really trying to avoid, right? I think with the paladin, obviously there's a lot of buffing that goes along with their aura, so I'm avoiding the buffing aura thing and mainly debuffs, so that we also avoid the play style of like turtling and just having everybody huddle up. So no matter where you're at, you can position yourself in a way that you don't need to be dependent on being in the aura. That creatures affected in the aura are going to be enemies. Also, the one thing I don't like about the paladin's aura that I want to ensure that I have here is that I want it to be active. And what I mean by active is that it's just not a passive thing that you just have on like the paladin does. I find it very boring for me in terms of playstyle, because it's like I'm the paladin, I stand there and like there's no interactivity. So for me, it's like that's why paladin is kind of paladin. By all means, and I've said this multiple times on streams, should be my favorite class in 5e. It ticks every box of being a social character, being a frontliner, having access to spellcasting, and being a supportive team player. And the way that you go about all of those is not. Some of this stuff is very passive, or it's very reactive. Especially like smites. Smites are, I feel, a little bit more reactive than active. And then since you're kind of waiting to see whether you're in a smite or not based off your critting and stuff, it really doesn't feel like it's good. And on top of that, like your subclass doesn't really offer any active features that are unique to it outside of like the spells and the channel divinity, like until later on, right? So it's like, yeah, for me, playstyle wise, it's in a weird spot, despite it should being my favorite class. Yeah, this is what Ross and I have tried in the past with stance switching classes. Is Yojimbo, my runekeeper? Yep. Yeah, so we have some ideas for spellbinding performance. I'm still trying to figure out like which one is gonna really work. How many versions of this stupid thing I have? That's why I was busy. This is what I was working on. Spellbinding performance 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's 5 versions of this. I think the last one I wrote was like the one I was kind of like really aiming towards. Okay. So, let's move this because we're not doing that. Grand Act is going to be our Magic Arcanum here, so that's going to give you the higher level spells. We'll figure out our sick ass Puppet Master capstone feature later. But yeah, so first version of spellbinding performance. Let me just version A. And pretty much I've been sharing these in the Generics Pack Discord in the homebrew channels. So if you want to see like early sneak peeks of this kind of stuff while I'm working on it throughout the week. This class I've been doing a lot more offline than I normally would do. With the Luchador, I pretty much worked on it entirely on streams, but this one I've been working a little bit more offline with it. So first version, all these would be a second level feature. This one, the first version, you would use your action to have your puppet emit an aura that extends only out to 5 feet. So this one is very, very limited range. Doesn't go past total cover, and it only lasts until the end of your next turn while the aura is active. Hostile creatures that start their turn in the aura or enter the aura must succeed on a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC or become charmed by you and your puppet until the end of your next turn. On subsequent turns, you can use your action to maintain this effect, extending its duration until the end of your next turn. However, the effect ends if you move more than 5 feet away from the creature, if the creature cannot see you or your puppet, or if the creature takes damage. Oh, excuse me. However, the effect ends if you move more than 5 feet away from the creature, if the creature cannot see you or your puppet, or if the creature takes damage. You can use this feature twice. You regain expended use when you finish a long rest. Pretty much this version of it is kind of this witch bolty way of doing it, where you have to just kind of maintain this performance. You're constantly commanding your puppet to do this sort of charm effect with the intention of having subclass features trigger off of charmed and building off of your opponents being charmed. The fall off is that there's creatures that are immune to charm, right? So that is the big thing. Hey, what's going on, Hornetico? Yeah, I can't fight the inspiration. I wish I had streamed more of the Vanguard and Zodiac designs, but the idea of flow was just too good to stop. Yeah, just what happens. Like, sometimes you just get into gear. Oh, okay. Well, then you might like some of these other features, Renan, because there's other ones that are kind of like other versions of this idea that would allow subclasses to interact with it more. This first one was like, what if it was this idea of like having the charm condition and having subclass having different features based off of having your opponents being charmed. Didn't really stick with that one, but I still have it there just in case. I kind of want to go back to it. Second idea is whenever you cast a puppeteer spell using a spell slot through your puppet, the puppet emits a spectacular aura which extends 5 feet from you in every direction until the end of your next turn. While the aura is active, hostile creatures that start their turn in the aura enter the aura must succeed on a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC or become charmed by you and your puppet until the end of your next turn. This one's a little bit more a different way to be active, that you have to cast spells. Obviously, you're going to be very, very limited because you're only going to be able to do this once or twice, depending on your level, for a very, very long time. And enemies still get to save on this version to being charmed. Again, this would also apply to this would also work off of the charm effect and enemies being charmed by you and having subclass features trigger off that charm effect. So that was that one. So yeah, for a very, very long time, you're gonna have like, oh, hold on. Spells known, spell slots, spell. Okay, we gotta fix this one because I think this is all messed up for spell slots. Yeah, the spell slots are all messed up. We gotta fix that, but it's following the it should follow the, oh my god, messing up. It should follow the warlock spellcasting progression. Obviously it's pack magic, so I think this is actually wrong. So all right, so that's version B. Version C, this is where we're gonna have a little bit more of, I would say, taking inspiration from, what is it? Cleric, Channel Divinity version, I would say, is the best way to describe it. So that you get to pick different performances, different effects based off of your standard one you get from your class, and then one that's offered to you by your subclass. Starting at second level, you gain the ability to channel magical energy into your puppet's performance. Using that energy to create a magical effect, you start with 2 effects: Captivate, and an effect determined by your enchanted puppet. When you use your spellbinding performance, you choose which effect to create. You must finish a short or long rest to use your spellbinding performance again. Some spellbinding performance effects require saving throws, which you use such an effect from this class. The DC equals your puppeteer spell save DC. All right, and then Captivate is pretty much the AOE charm effect that that has been in the other ones, and we're gonna see Captivate again in the subsequent ones. All right, give me a sec, guys. I need to run to the restroom. Too much liquids. So be right back. All right, we're back. Okay, so going back to where we left off. Okay, there's also version D and version E. So version D, pretty much version C, D, and E are going to be very, very similar, with the idea that the subclass is going to give you, actually, excuse me, version C and E are very similar, because their subclass is going to give you like a new pretty much spellbinding performance with the general idea. So D, on the other hand, is a little bit different. Your puppet emits a spectacular aura, extends to 5 feet again. Okay, never mind it. Okay. So what's the narrative behind it getting magic? So the general idea behind it is that your puppet is actually enchanted. So I am taking the idea that kind of this Pinocchio idea, that you have this magical puppet, and it's through that shared connection with your magic enchanted puppet, and your ability to perform is what's generating you that magic. A martial version of this, though, would be interesting. So it's like the philosophical idea of control. Yeah, I guess. In a way, yeah. And I'm gonna stop drinking this coffee. Oh, it is too sweet. I don't think they actually gave me the cold brew. I think they made... Yeah, they didn't give me the cold brew. They made something else. It's way too sweet. I just try to diagnose the character of the magic system before I get into the spellcasting. Interesting. Was it? Say it wasn't a spellcasting class, right? If it wasn't spellcasting, it still would be a support class. It would be a martial support, and the puppet would just offer performances that would probably run similar to, in my head, like a battle master to some extent, right? Those battle master and sword bard like effects where they can reposition, move. Which is okay. I think mechanically, I think spells kind of fit that performance vibe a little bit more, right? That the spells, pretty much there's certain spells that are wrapped in like performance that actually make a lot more sense, that convey the fantasy, I think, a lot better. And also, so you're not really having to rewrite similar effects, like stuff like Tasha's hideous laughter, vicious mockery. Pretty much every illusion spell would work with this class. Are you going to have different puppets, basically running it like an artificer, but enchanting puppets instead of machines? No, this isn't going to be like a mass puppet, mass pet kind of class. This is going to be your Geppetto, and then you have Pinocchio. Yeah, you're going to be, you have this puppet that you've created that you use as a arcane proxy. I'm just trying to figure out what makes someone the puppeteer rather than some guy who makes puppets. Oh, okay. And pretty much Lich King, the subclasses, depending on your subclass, will determine your style of like performance puppet sort of thing. I'm thinking for a modular feature at 3rd level, similar to kind of how Warlock has the boons. This class will have not necessarily a boon, but a feature that will have the puppet play a certain role in the party. So you still have that custom, like that modularity with it. So you want to play like a want your puppet to be more spellcastery and more supportive in that way. You have that a puppet that allows you to do more things outside of combat, more utility driven. Have that, and then obviously a frontline puppet. You just want a tank. Just try to figure out what makes someone the puppeteer rather than some guy who makes puppets. That's true. All right. Let's see where we're at. Spellbinding performance. Pretty much this is similar to some of these other ideas. You're gonna have the captivate. It only extends to 5. But this has the feature where you have to maintain the performance as your action every turn if you want to keep going it. I'm kind of moving away from that maintain performance idea, or at least it uses your action. The one I think I'm eyeing, but this also messes with some of the action economy, so you'd have to really figure it out, is because it's heavily reliant on your bonus action. So spellbinding performance version E. So you use your bonus action to have your puppet emanate a magic aura that extends 10 feet from your puppet in every direction, but not through total cover. When you use this feature, you choose which effect activates, and you can activate the effect again on each of your turns as a bonus action. You start with 2 effects. Captivate, an effect determined by your enchanted puppet. Some spellbinding performance effects require saving throws. When you use such an effect from this class, the DC equals your puppeteer spell save DC. Your spellbinding performance lasts for 1 minute. It ends early if you're incapacitated or your puppet is destroyed. You can also end your performance on your turn as a bonus action. You must finish a short or long rest to use your spellbinding performance again. So when this effect is activated, all hostile creatures in your area must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become charmed by you and your puppet until the end of your next turn. The effect ends if your puppet moves more than 10 feet away from the creature, if the creature cannot see your puppet, or if the creature takes damage. So that's this idea. Make it so you kind of have this active performance that goes on, but as a bonus action, you can reactivate the pretty much like a pulsing performance, still giving that idea that you're kind of like commanding and doing the performance with your puppet, but also toning down or pretty much leaving your action open so that you can actually do stuff. The only problem with this, since all of this is reliant on your bonus action, you also need your bonus action to move your puppet. That's just something that we could obviously upgrade later, where you're able to move and do a performance all in the same turn, or just have it so your puppet can move without you needing to command it to move. But that is the version of this I like the most. So there's this. I think the puppet is very visual rather than a sort of AoE idea. That is true. So instead of a, well, oh yeah, hop in. I'm in my little stream room, so you can pop in. Hop on in. Hey, what's going on, man? Let me see, make sure your audio is good.
Back. Hey, how you doing, dude?
I've been good, man. Been relaxing. I've had a very, very long week, and then I had a long week at work, and then I had inspiration strike at the same time, so I snuck in like all these ideas.
Hell yeah.
In between work.
Yeah, it's yeah, this, oh man, between just kind of everything going on this week, but also like trying to get in on like vagabond stuff, it's like, oh my god, I'm ready to have a couple days where I'm not thinking about content creation.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm looking forward to not working on anything for September. I'm gonna work on I'm taking like a nice little break. I'll probably still be streaming, but I'm not gonna really do any videos. And then I'm working with a couple like artists to get more figures and stuff done. I'm gonna get a new layout done too for the channel. So when I come back in October, I have some new visuals done.
Oh hell yeah, right. Yeah. Well, so okay, so I was kind of as I was listening through, kind of watch. 1 second. Okay, God, my allergies today. So as I was kind of listening through, I saw you were going for like this aura thing, you know. And as I was kind of thinking about it, I was like, you know, to me, what makes a lot of sense is this thing is, I mean, I would think of puppetry as a sort of more visual performance art.
Yeah.
Maybe you could also argue, you know, it's, I mean, anytime that we're looking at like dance, I think it's a very more, whereas the Bard is more about sound. We're talking more about actual, like, you know, visuals here.
Yeah.
So I think, like, to me, what personally kind of resonates a bit more with the idea is rather than it being an aura, maybe it's like a visual effect. And this could allow you to, like, I guess potentially change a lot of spells to, rather than you know, touch or whatever. It's a thing that this puppet could act as your conduit, and anything that could see it could be willfully affected by the spell. You know, as like this puppet does like an enchanting, whatever you want to say, performance.
Yeah.
Which in some ways I actually think is stronger than aura.
You're hitting on another idea, because I was trying to figure out how to word it too, because I had another idea. It was like a meta magic-esque version of this thing where you're kind of manipulating or changing the spells in some way so that say Vicious Mockery, obviously a puppet's not going to talk unless you're a ventriloquist. Have it that the puppet is like satire, like pretty much miming the enemy in a way, like doing this performance that's miming it, and it still does the effects of Vicious Mockery in a way. Right. Yeah.
I think there's also like kind of a cool idea with like soul bonding, where like you know, if you're thinking about like kind of that difference between a puppeteer and then some dude that makes puppets, where it's like I think with if I'm just throwing out like what are like possibly some narrative ideas here, you know, there's this idea of like even wizards that make golems could be considered a puppeteer in a sense.
Yeah.
Anybody that casts animate objects, they are essentially taking control of these things and giving them life. So in this way, you could also think of the puppeteer as somebody who is just sort of a magical animator in a way. And in doing that, it's like, okay, well, there's that core of it. And then could you do something like extending that out towards why is the puppeteer different from a wizard casting animate objects? Getting into your like hit point sharing pool idea, you know, that idea that it could be something where it was soul bonded. This is something that, you know, the puppeteer is an artist that has literally put an essence of themselves into this thing. You know, like maybe some ideas like that.
Yeah, because because I had talked to Daryl, and he was like, you should just make it like a pet. Like he kept like really emphasizing like make it a pet, and it like with the some sort of warding bond feature, like the shared hit pool thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's interesting, but then I was like, dang, I was like, the work to really figure out the rules of the pet. I was just like, damn.
Right.
And yeah, because it making it an object makes it non-interactable in a way that is satisfying, but at the same time, also avoid some of the other issues I was having. Just like if your class is dependent on having that, having some sort of like pet or object that you're using, and all your pretty much functions are going to be reliant on that fantasy. Having it removed and your pretty much class is just shut out because you don't have the cool thing was what I was worried about, because we see that problem with pet subclass. It's like the same thing with Beastmaster Ranger. Your beast is dead. Well, you're just a ranger, but you're not the Beastmaster Ranger. Yeah. So
yeah, it's tricky. So the thing is with companion classes, I know that so many people really love the fiction of it and everything. It's something that I always wind up feel like I'm bashing my head against a wall with, because like companion classes, it always turns into like, well, this is definitely going to appeal to a select crowd for it, you know, the 10% of the audience members or something like that. But for the vast majority of people, it's like, well, what happens if I multi-class this over into this? Now suddenly I've got a Pokemon squad, and I'm like, well, okay,
Yeah.
all right, you know.
Yeah.
But as far as the companion rules go, it's weird for 5e. You know, you do have a bit of grace here, because I think rather than embracing it as a companion mechanic, the thing that I would kind of lean in towards is looking at, like, is it Rock Gnome? What's the Tinker Gnome one? Is it Rock?
Yeah, it's Rock Gnome. Yeah.
Yeah, like one of my favorite things actually that I saw out of the changes that they were making to races or species or whatever the hell they're calling it now, was that Rock Gnome was able to make an object capable of the functions of prestidigitation.
Ooh.
I was like, that is such a clever way to give you a small little object like that, that has like really basic functionality and actually get a lot out of it, right?
Yeah.
And in doing that, it's like the only reason why companion mechanics are so complicated with 5e is because they feel like they have to cover all of their bases, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you look at like Merkborg, it doesn't go through the whole thing of like, well, whenever it on its turn, yada yada yada, XYZ thing, here we go. It doesn't do all that because number one, they don't have individual initiative over there. Merkborg just goes, you have a hawk, and it does D4 damage, and it has 2 health. There you go. It's a hawk. You have it. It's like, yeah, you can assume. I mean, we know for all practical purposes how this is going to work.
Yeah.
We don't really have to cover all our bases on whether or not the hawk likes to eat mice, or what happens if the hawk dies. You know, yeah, the hawk dies.
Yeah.
It's part of the game, you know.
Yeah.
Go get another one, I guess. But yeah, like just kind of some thoughts like that. I get really worried whenever I see people trying to take on a full-on companion as a class.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's a design nightmare. You are starting off, rather than starting off on like a simple idea here, we're giving you something that will put a lot of bloat on the character sheet.
Yeah.
If I were going back through today and like looking at like my merchant class, I would overhaul the ever loving piss out of Portable Storefront. It's like a half of a page worth of text.
Yeah.
To say that there's a bag that you have that you can pull objects out of that are on this list and can only be of a value equal to this amount shown in your class. And I look at it now and I'm like, oh god, there's so much trimming that I can do to that. You know what I mean? Yeah, I try to keep it as simple as I can off the bat. And I think especially with this, you might, I mean, if you haven't looked at that Rock Gnome from the UA, dude, they actually have something really clever happening in there.
I'm gonna have to pull it back.
Yeah.
Because it also kind of reminds me, like, obviously magical tinkering from Artificer. It's very bloated in how they pretty much allow you to do prestidigitation. But pretty much what
I think if I were gonna do like some video, I still might do this actually. It's like, all right, I'm looking back on has it been 5 years since we got the Artificer?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my.
By the Artificer, Eberron. Release. Let's see. It's been a bit because Eberron and 2019.
The universe is just doing everything it can to make me feel old.
Yeah, November 2019 was when the Artificer officially was released.
I am telling you, the thing that would have made the Artificer everybody's favorite class in the game and would have been such a home run is if they would have made spell storing item their first level feature.
Oh yeah.
Like, if that were just a part of the functionality of the spell casting of the Artificer, I would have been like, absolutely, I'm playing this from levels 1 to 20. This is so cool, you know. But they locked it behind 11th level. I have no idea why they would do that. Yeah. But you see how there's like actually a pretty simple idea in that 2 paragraphs. Whenever you finish a long rest, you know, so there is a restriction on there. But even doing that and then doing the rock gnome thing of, you know, you can make an object that's capable of the functions of prestidigitation. That's sick.
Yeah, that is
that's
sick.
So sick.
Okay, I think I found. I have to go through every freaking.
Oh yeah, it was a pretty early on
one.
I think it was character origins.
Yeah, it's like one of the first ones. Gnomish traits, Gnomish lineage, rock gnome force, no rock. Okay, actually, let me see if I can pull this up. Download. For whatever reason, Adobe's being really, really weird.
Adobe's been kind of buggy ever since the new Acrobat rollout. There's like, I mean, whenever I'm doing JavaScript on, I'm telling people on the Vagabond hero record, I'm like, we may not have some JavaScript for a hot second because Adobe's still figuring their life out on all this.
We're gonna see this. All right.
Yeah.
See what this is. Okay, so
2022 article. God, man.
Yeah.
My 30s do not need to be going by this fast.
Oh. Let's see. Okay, here we go. For Rock Gnome, you know amending and prestidigitation character. In addition, you can spend 10 minutes casting prestidigitation to create a tiny clock device. Such as a toy, a fire starter, or music box. Casting the spell in this way consumes 10 gold worth of raw material, which you provide during the casting. When you create the device, you determine its function by choosing one of the effects from prestidigitation. The device produces that effect whenever you or another creature takes a bonus action to touch the device and activate it. If the chosen effect has options within it, you can choose one of those options for the device when you create it. For example, if you choose the spell's ignite extinguish effect, you determine whether the device ignites or extinguishes fire. Okay, that's interesting. And you can create 3 of them.
Yeah, this is such a brilliantly easy way to do this, where like there's the idea, if they had just said like, okay, well there's a small, like they could do a stat block that was like, I don't know, a clockwork device or something like that, and it's an object that you can create with 10 gold pieces worth of raw materials using some kind of a tool, right? An applicable tool from either whatever. And in doing that, you can just make one of these during a short or long rest if you have the appropriate raw materials and everything. I would have been like, all right, the age of the MacGyver D&D is here. Like, this is an invitation for you to this is probably one of my biggest, most favorite highlights out of any of the recent Unearthed Arcana that they've been doing. And I'm very sad to think that they may not actualize this. This could be way simple. Like, this could be very simple. And I think even for you, like for the Puppeteer, you know, so number one, if you root it into like a ritual, okay, so there we have a precedent, 10 minutes of time. 10 minutes of time conducting this ritual during which you're creating the puppet with 10 gold pieces worth of raw materials. Afterwards, it is a puppet that is under your control as per, you could even say, the animate object spell. It is a small or tiny, I guess you could say, creature, something like that. I think there's ways to reduce the complexity of it and still do a lot of the cool stuff you want to do with it. But yeah, I think your jumping off point for right now has got to be figuring out how you want the puppet made, and just sort of how it's controlled, right?
Yeah, because that's the one thing. Because I remember talking with it was Phil like way back, and in regards to how pet progression works in 5e.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much you don't get like a full actualized pet until 3rd level. The game calculates it that yes, having a pretty much a full extra body that has like a full set of hit points doesn't come online until 3rd level. Before that,
Right.
it's familiar, where it only will have like 1 HP most of the time.
This would so not be a problem if they just got rid of multi-classing. I promise you, there's so many things in this game that I'm like,
Yeah, I agree.
It's that mechanic alone limits so much fantasy expression that they could be getting out of this game.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, and I've seen other character builder, and even for me, like I'm doing character builds, and I'm like, when I come back in October, I'm gonna go back. I'm jumping back into it, doing some stuff that's gonna be applied to like Baldur's Gate 3 also. So there's gonna be that little.
Oh yeah.
So that crossover is like you want to play this kind of character in Baldur's Gate 3 or play it at the table. This is how you do it. I still disagree with like the character builder guys on this, because it's like they want the restrictions from Baldur's Gate 3 to like how they lifted multi-classing restrictions just to be applied to this. I'm just like, just ban multi-classing.
Yep.
Just ban multi-classing. Ban multi-classing. Force wizards to actually create more classes and then more subclasses that fill those niche fantasies that people are looking for to begin with. Like, it's not that hard.
Nick H, the Draco Knight by Ross is actually pretty solid for pet class.
Yeah, that was one of the ones I looked at too early on. It's a really solid. I think it solves the pet level progression problem, and in a way that is just really seamless. That's because I looked at it early on to determine whether I wanted this to be a pet or not.
Yeah, have you looked at Ross's Emergent?
No, I haven't picked that one up yet.
It's going to feel kind of like a summoner a la like Final Fantasy X, where like I mean, you played Final Fantasy X, right?
Yeah.
So you know how Yuna will like summon the thing and then it sits out there and fights with you for a while, rather than the like, you know, the big burst action that you saw from a lot of old summons.
Yeah.
Those the Emergent kind of
10-minute cutscenes.
Yeah. The Emergent really leans in on that as a concept, where like this is a thing that you bring out on the battlefield and it's there, and it's like an extension of your soul. It's quite cool. There's a it's one of the only times I've ever seen somebody execute like I think it was 2d4 hit dice. Like,
oh wow.
Yeah, so like every class it gets 2d4, or every class level it gets 2d4, because it's like the concept is your soul is like split amongst you both. And there's just cute little things like that I was like, God damn it, Ross, you find like weird ways to mess with the system even further. Yeah, that's one that I highly recommend people check out if they're into that that concept of something having a basis around being two separate entities as a character archetype. But yeah, I think like with the entire idea that you're even the puppeteer that's able to control this thing, it makes sense that it gets spellcasting.
Yeah,
I just try to think about like, yeah, but how, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is it that what is it about that relationship, or what is it about this connection that got you the magic? Because that's super fun to explore. Whenever I was looking at that for the merchant, it was like the thing that made the most sense was, well, all these spells require material components, and like no matter what, you can't subsidize a valuable component, right?
Yeah.
So there's like innate magic to the idea of value. Whenever I started writing about this, I think it might have been Wally. It was either Wally or AJ, who were like, yeah, there's like a kind of a famous debate between Volo and Elminster about why material components are a thing. It was and whether or not value is actually the idea of the gods. Like, whether or not value is absolute and like an I guess like almost a law of reality, rather than like, oh, it's just these, these humans think that it's worth this many shiny rocks. It's there must be something magical to the idea of rarity as an essence, which is why magic items come with a rarity. Why, I thought it was super interesting. Why rarity isn't just a level of how hard it is to find this thing, but also how powerful the thing is.
Oh.
So I like that led into me justifying why the merchant got spell casting.
That's it. That is very, very interesting. Because it plays into another idea too. Is like of infusing magic into the puppet in some way. Yeah. Like one of the ideas was like, we'll have the puppet kind of be like a like spell storing in a way that you would pretty much put a spell into the puppet, and then that is pretty much your spellbinding performance. You can activate it later. In a way. So
well, and I think you can really easily go with like, I mean, sure, there's spells that instantly come to mind with this archetype, right? Big B's hand, hold monster,
Sure.
dominate person, whatever you want to say. So there's definitely a character to the magic that this would have, right? And I mean, in some ways, I kind of think of it the same way, like I think with Palm, like the Palm Zodiac.
Yeah.
For that, it was like, I mean, I just went anime as, what wait, I forget. Can we cuss on your channel?
Yeah, we can. We're good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just went like as anime as fuck as I could with it, and whenever I was thinking of Palm, it was like I had just gotten off the Chainsaw Man binge, and I was like, yeah, I want Makima though. I want something that doesn't seem quite sinister on the outside, and then the moment that you start thinking about the implications of what that thing means, it's like twisted, right? And that's where like, Palm kicked in, and I just drew on her whole aspect of control, manipulation, and everything to make that Zodiac. And I think with like the Puppeteer, it kind of leans in on that idea of like, okay, well, you have something here that's more about the control, for sure, control.
Yeah.
And I think the difference that you have here is that Druid is more AoE control. This could be like single target control.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be interesting. Ooh, I kind of like that.
Like a Scion, And I think because you would be going with single target control, you could actually lean into the ideas of dominating a lot earlier than you could with something like a Druid. Yeah, especially if it's just one target, you could. Because the AoE control is part of what makes it to where like Druid really shouldn't be getting a hold of that stuff until a lot later. Command, God, the command spell alone is so good on a concept like this.
Hold on, where I have it at the bottom, because there's a bunch of like pretty much I was looking at a lot of like illusion and enchantment based mechanics, and like how do they convey this, because I'm like, that's the way I see that really what you and the Puppeteer and the puppet are doing, is that they're going in there, they're doing this performance, they're pretty much tricking people, pretty much enchanting them to kind of pay attention to them in a lot of ways.
Right.
And it's like, and then you just reminded me, where is it at? Is it enthralling? That's not enthralling performance. It is hold on. It's the one that's where they use command. Is it mental majesty? Mental majesty. Here it is.
Yeah.
You gain the ability to cloak yourself in a fey magic that makes others want to serve you. As a bonus action, you cast command without expending a spell slot, and you take an appearance of unearthly beauty for 1 minute or until your concentration ends. During this time, you can cast command as a bonus action each of your turns without expending a spell slot. Any creature charmed by you automatically fails its saving throw against the command you cast at this creature. I was like, damn, that's actually sick.
It is so good. And that, I think that feature is just going to wind up being slept on for 5e. Like,
it is.
that's so terrifyingly good, but like I don't really know exactly why it would be. Was that a druid or a bard?
No,
That
this
was
is
a
a bard.
bard.
Yeah, this is a bard. Um,
Glamour,
glamour,
right?
right? Yeah, this is a glamour. And people, I don't know why people sleep on command a lot, because I think it's everybody just use whole person. Like if you get access to whole
Yeah.
person, just use that. But it's like, well, command does a lot, and if you really want the effects of whole person, command them to grovel, and you're good to go. Like it's the same
Yeah.
shit.
I think Trekaro said it was his favorite spell in the game.
Yeah, like command's been putting it to work for me on Baldur's Gate 3. Like
It's
so
so
good.
good. And like the thing I keep telling people is I'm like, look, here's the deal. If you're trying to make charm person work or you're trying to make I don't know, a hold person or something like that, here's the deal. You're going to get both of those spells in this one right here.
Yeah.
Like you effectively for any combat scenario, this is going to help you out. Charm person's best like strongest thing is going to be helping you out in social stuff, which let's be real here, doesn't have a whole lot of weight.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. I mean, 5e is a combat simulator, and if it doesn't have a whole lot of combat weight, it's just not really worth it. It's you know, and seeing something like command where I'm like, I as a DM am more willing to take on spells like this, even though it's probably stronger than other options, because it's an invitation to get creative with it.
Yeah.
Whereas charm person just feels like they're expecting that person is now my friend.
Right.
And they need to obey whatever I say. But command can still do that in a way that doesn't feel so agency removing or
Yeah, well, command is very defined, right? Because you just have to give a simple command and the creature has to follow through with it, while the charm person plays with some really weird narratives where it's like, and that the ambiguity of like what exactly do they mean by charm, or they completely under like mind control, which is what people really like to assume that's what it is,
right?
And it's like, no, it's just they like you more. That's at its weakest, right? They just like you more. So it's like, well, the DM gets more leeway to not have the creature comply in a lot of ways too. Because I like, one of my DMs is that way too, where yeah, we'll do charm person, but the guy likes you more, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're complying. So it makes the spell feel a little useless.
I mean, the intention of it is, this is a total subterfuge spell, right? Like charm person is like 100% you cast it, and then you have this person who will for an hour apparently guide you through this castle, saying like, oh well, these people are, you know, they're buddies of mine, we're gonna get you through. Like, it's for a very specific lineup of like subterfuge, and this is part of why it's like you kind of know immediately afterwards the alarm bells are gonna ring, because the thing knows it was charmed by you.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a lot of like DM fiat in here that's making this spell kind of like it feels a little too competitive for me. But I would rather just see it. Let's not do charm person. Let's call it like enthrall, or you know, I don't know what it is. The word charm just kind of has a certain connotation to it that I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
But so what do you feel like you're kind of stuck on right now, or do you feel like you're kind of hitting a, because I just saw that you had a bunch of different like features.
Yeah, pretty much it was trying to figure out how this aura mechanic works, but if we just get the aura mechanic and just focus on a single target, it might I think it's more so the mechanics of activation, and then also whether I want it to be something that you have to maintain or not. Because in terms, I
definitely think you should.
Yeah, because like in terms of first level, I think like obviously I think there's more depth now. We can actually look at how to really create and ritual cast, like so the suggestions you're making to give it a little more in depth. Because right now this is just very straightforward. First level, you get your subclass. You pretty much get to choose the kind of puppet, which is just going to allude to different kind of like puppet styles while still playing with the marionette thematics. So like some ideas are like shadow puppets. There's going to be a shadow subclass, and then pretty much I want one subclass that is vicious mockery, the subclass, which is going to be the ventriloquist like idea. Okay. So like those are at least two ideas I'm playing with. But there's I know on a water one that's gonna drop on some Southeast Asian puppet theater that they do puppets on water. I want to play with some stuff like that, but that's just kind of those are all be influenced by like styles of puppetry. But then summoning create your puppet is just very straightforward. It's a bonus action to summon your puppet, right? That's all I have so far, with some base stats on like what you can do with it, what it's yeah, pretty much what its stats are, which is like its basic AC, its hit points, then yeah, strings attached. You can move it as a bonus action. It can only can't move more than 30 feet away from you, else it's destroyed. But then as a bonus action, you could just summon it again. And then spellbound, you can cast through it. It's your magical conduit. And with stage magic, it is your with stage magic, it is also your spell focus. So yeah, just I think going back to having different ways to maybe cast with it, because I'm thinking there's one thing too, what I liked about Zodiac is the modularity that you had built into it, which is very, very different than what the Warlock gets. And that's one thing I know I'm missing so far with some of my ideas with this, is that pack casting requires some sort of modular system, and the Puppeteer Fantasy fits that idea. Obviously, it's like you customize your puppet is one route to go with it. Customize your performance is another route, but I'm also trying to think like how I can convey it. But
so typically with something like that, you're going to want to eat action economy.
Yeah.
Right. Just the mere fact that you're like requiring something more active rather than like, so first off, the ideas that kind of came to my mind is like, I think if anything else that the performing with the puppet or whatever, especially if it's going to be casting a spell of some kind, needs to require your concentration. Because I would assume that this puppet is most likely going to be the thing. Like, you are not going to be a frontline character.
Yeah, no.
And I would say that this, at the very least, if it's going to be doing things like casting spells for you or maintaining some kind of an effect, I think it's very fair and actually not a huge ask for this thing to require your bonus action to maintain the performance.
Okay.
Because that's going to be how you're going to essentially command it, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, it's going to require concentration. Are you sticking with if the puppet takes damage, you take the damage?
Oh, no, I don't even have that in there right now.
Oh, okay.
I don't have that at all. It's an idea that I know Daryl has also said I should probably play with. I know I would need to look at, because Pathfinder 2nd Edition actually handles this really well with their pet classes, the summoner specifically. It's a shared hit pool between the pet and the only difference is like the reason pet classes work in Pathfinder is because their action economy is built in a way that allows it to work. So obviously there's 3 points, but the pets, you give up like 1 or 2 of your actions to give your pets multiple actions. So yeah, so the way they handle it is like that way, so it is really, really balanced out. And the summoners just like they share a hit pool die. So
I think some of the things you could do with it are like leaning into the idea of like the puppet master, whatever you want to say. So performance is definitely in its skill, like you give it in its skills, right?
Yeah. Yep. That should be there.
Is there a way to let me think here. This is such a weird thing with 5e design, because like if they don't have the performance skill, then it's what I'm about to say doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But basically what I'm thinking is if you can rely on them having the performance proficiency, then what you can do with that is say like anytime it makes an attack saving throw, what is it? Anytime that it makes an attack or saving throw, you can make a performance check for it instead. using that in place of the attack roll or saving throw, which is already very good.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's but if it's this little puppet thing that like we're not going to make it an absolute hoss out there on the battlefield.
Yeah.
It makes sense, right? Like this
Yeah.
is something you have magically animated and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I'm doing with Vagabond right now, where like anytime that you like, if you become a beast as a druid, you're going to be using your survival checks instead of anything in its stat block.
Yeah.
Since the stat blocks in Vagabond don't have enemies aren't rolling, so like it's a thing that you could do here where you could say like you make a performance check rather than it making a check of its own, and that would simplify a lot of what you have going on in the stat, or like it reduces the need for a big bulky stat block.
Yeah.
And if you say, I need to look at animate objects again,
I think
because I think that there's a way that you can write this where it's like a condensed version of animate objects where it's only the tiny object.
I have it up right here. Pretty much tiny object is 20 HP, 18 AC, 4 strength.
Okay. So this may require that you write a specific first level ritual spell. And we would do something like, God, 20 hit points. I forget how absurd these objects are.
What's the spell? There's another one that comes in a lot earlier that allows you to tiny servant. Here it is.
Yeah.
Let me see what this one does. Tiny servant for statistics. This one only has 10 hit points. AC's 15.
This is a very, very good spell. This is a very, very good spell for one thing in particular on this. I wish this was not a 3rd level spell because it's so cute. I think it needs to be a 2nd level spell, but that's, yeah. Now, this is really good for one thing really big on this in particular, and that's the fact that this does not require concentration. So what you could do as a bonus action, you can, okay. So you see how it says you can control multiple creatures with this spell?
Yeah.
We could basically take Tiny Servant and gut a lot of the stuff that makes this a 3rd level spell and make it to where this is something that you would be able to cast in order to maintain control of this puppet. You would have this puppet as long, I mean, this would be a blend of Find Familiar and Tiny Servant is kind of what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And in some ways, I think even Find Familiar, they made way too bulky.
Yeah. Find Familiar.
Actually, the Tiny Servant for statistics. Let me see. Sorry if you can hear Amanda. She's in the back moving stuff around in the living room. It sounds like she's like dropping bowling balls in there.
It's all good. Right, let's see. Find Familiar.
Ooh, God, why did they give the Tiny Servant blind sight? That is so good. Now my internet is going super slow. Let's see, okay, 10 hit points. Okay. So here's the deal to me with the Tiny Servant. It has 30 foot of climb speed, which it doesn't really need. It has a natural armor class of 15, which is kind of odd that it just says natural and not natural armor. It's odd. It's immune to being blinded, charmed, deafened. Yeah. I
Pretty
got all
much
that.
object, yeah.
But here's my deal. This is not something that's worth a 3rd level spell slot. I still think to this day they way overvalued
Maybe
this one.
I think it might be because they overvalued it because you can have multiple of these, but you're spamming multiple friggin' 3rd level slots just to.
It's too expensive to do the thing that they were worried about it doing.
Yeah.
You know, even at like if a player was like, I have 27 tiny servants that I spent all of my spell slots on, I'd be like, well, okay, sure.
Oh,
Like,
okay. This is why. Because at higher levels, yeah, you'd have to, like at 4th level, you can animate 2 additional ones. That is why.
yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
So it's a different way for you to do animate objects,
Yeah.
but if we're just restricting it to where like it does the one thing, we can essentially make it Tiny Servant the class feature and let you do this as a ritual as long as you only have control of the one.
Yeah.
And whatever this puppet's personality or however you guys decide to roleplay that out, you know, you could say essentially this thing's essence or whatever it is. Because I think, you know, part of the horror really of Pinocchio is it's like Pinocchio got a soul, you know, like that's kind of like, oh, they just manifest that.
Yeah, because I when I was talking to Daryl, I told him, I was like, I do want to do a Pinocchio subclass, but like ultimately at the end of it is like you're not. Pretty much, it becomes like a full-fledged like other being at the end of it. But I'm still trying to figure out like, is that narrative really worth playing? Because there is some implications about. That's why you don't have like these overlord or minion kind of classes.
Right.
You summon a person like I'm a goblin warlord or whatever. So my pet is a goblin, right? Some weird narratives, and you just don't want that. So I was just like, I might not do that at all because it's really weird. Might just do like a Fae inspired one, and still just do like fairy tale puppet.
Yeah, I think like you're the strength of this is going to come down to, rather than it being a thing that we're considering having its own essence and sentient thoughts of its own. This is it's a puppet. You know, it is So if anybody does try to give you hell about like, well, what is that implying about slavery? It's like my guy, it's a puppet.
It's a puppet, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So like, you know, if you go with the I think campaigns might try to go into this territory of like, you know, well, yeah, but what if the puppet was a real boy? I'd just be like, stop it. Just stop it. God, let people just enjoy it. Yeah. So I don't think that you're really going to have an issue with that kind of narrative popping up.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's be real here. That is like one very specific story.
Yeah. And then pretty much in a lot of fairy tales, there's still the other ideas of like they animate objects, right? Like that's still like a big thing in every other fairy tale, even like just Disney movies. Like
Disney
Cinderella?
Loves that trope.
Yeah, Cinderella is like the biggest trope of that. They just animate every freaking object and transform stuff that shouldn't be into other things. Like,
yeah, I think you're fine on that. I wouldn't. I mean, you know, we've talked about social issues in gaming and stuff in the past, and I can't imagine this ever turning into a thing for you.
Yeah. I think only if I went like all in on a Pinocchio subclass, I think I would get pushback on it. But it's like,
yeah,
you can already do that with the Artificer, like in some ways, anyways. Like, if you really want to play that out,
yeah, if you want to say the Battlesmith or whatever, you know, I think the best way for you to probably go about this right now is gonna be to most likely go with Tiny Servant and copy that whole hog and use that as a basis to develop a first level mechanic here rather than a whole different spell. And honestly, once you get me going on the idea of, well, it's the Tiny Servant class, I can see quite a lot happening with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
you
think
know, target certain with some other
turning
stuff. Yeah.
spellbinding performance into like a single target thing too. I think that's a better way to go too. Um,
Which one was the spellbinding
there
performance?
would be like the second level bread and butter mechanic. I was looking at that was going to be like the little like mobile aura. Um,
Right.
I think doing that and just making it a single target CC.
I would say, yeah, you could make it single target. Make it single target. Make it rather than aura.
Mhm.
You know, a creature that can see the puppet or something.
Yeah.
Or I mean, if you want a new juggled chainsaw here, it's kind of what I did with the dancer, but it's any targets that can see the puppet.
Uh-huh.
Since you're already doing the aura, I think you probably pretty okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least at first blush, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, because the general idea right now, the one I'm liking, is to the way I want to handle this one is also have your subclasses allow you to do a different kind of like spellbinding performance. So you have your base one, which will be the charm effect. As, and then mainly like in combat, all it is gonna have them avoid hurting you or your pet. That's really what it's gonna come down to. But the because I was like, maybe I can do frighten too, but I don't think frighten makes sense. You're not gonna be afraid of a puppet.
Right.
Yeah. But
I mean,
then
I don't know. Have you seen some of those like
yeah, I'm not like who was it? Renan said, "What about a voodoo doll puppet?" I want to do a mind like because people, if you're gonna do a puppeteer, they all obviously want to do like the weird blood bending kind of puppetry stuff. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can get into some of like that, like just have your puppet latch onto a person and now you're controlling that person if they fail to save.
Yeah.
You can do that. But my idea is that you have your base idea, you have your base function similar to Channel Divinity does. And then your class will also give you a different performance that you could use that's more specialized for the class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really do think even just from the get-go here at first level, if you were just giving them spell casting and the puppet itself, that is already quite good. You've already set them up for a nice loadout there. So like just doing those two at first level is already really good. So and if you're thinking control here, and control is going to be like the kind of emphasis of the battle identity here. I would also try to think of like what else could you do at first level to kind of push them toward that.
Yeah. Well, actually, I might even just do support too, right? Because now I'm thinking it's like, okay, because I was going control route to stop worrying about the turtle features that a support aura would do, obviously. You don't see it too much with the paladin in a lot of ways. But I think it's because the nature of what the paladin has to sit itself at, which solves that issue, because obviously like you're a midliner or a backliner, you're not going to want to be next to the paladin to get the aura. But with this one, since you are playing back and then your pet's going to kind of position in a way that you can get everybody to turtle around on any part of the battlefield, which is not a good thing. If it's a single target thing, either going buffing or debuffing would be viable now.
Yeah.
But the only problem is like if support wise, I think we start stepping on the toes of the bard.
Well, and to be honest here, I there's plenty of space left over to where the bard is not going to be hungry at all.
Yeah.
What
I mean by like step on the toes of the bard, because the bardic inspiration is like, even though I don't feel like it doesn't really reflect inspiration. That is a war general mechanic.
Yeah.
The way that functions is like, no, you're commanding people, you're not inspiring them.
Yeah. I actually I think I need to get up and kind of walk around and get on some lunch and stuff. But
no problem, man.
If you feel free to ping me about if you're like, well, what would you do about XYZ thing? Feel free to hit me up.
Oh, no problem, man. Yeah.
I'm kind of, while I'm still working on Vagabond stuff, I do have like some 5e work kind of sitting around, but yeah, man, I'm all down to bounce ideas off of whatever.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I do need to hit you up about some luchador stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's an error and it's my fault actually, because I forgot to put it elsewhere. But there's a little error in there that's my fault. And I told you to take something out and then didn't realize it wasn't the place I thought it was.
Yeah. There's also some new stuff I'm kind of doing and experimenting with some layout stuff.
Ooh.
So I'm sure you probably have seen it if you looked over at like my Twitter or anything. But it's basically to help like reduce page bloat and with like information conveyance and stuff like that. So
let me go check it out now, because Twitter, I fucking hate Twitter, man. Like it,
yeah.
Although like all the people I want to see, it doesn't feed me it, and it even on the following page of like I want to see your guys, like yours, Benjamin's, like everybody. Nope, it feeds me like every other person's. Like I don't want to see them.
Yep. Mine started pumping out a lot of what Twitter thinks everybody wants to see rather than what Twitter knows I want to see, and I've also got to be a little bit more careful about who I add or who I follow on Twitter, because I'm like, I'm gonna follow this person in the industry, and then because I followed them, apparently like some of their fetishy stuff starts to bleed over into my Twitter, and I'm like, oh wait, I've ruined my timeline.
Yeah, I had like personal friends that I was like, I'm not following you on the Twitter because whatever you're looking at is coming up on my feed, and I'm not about it, man.
Right.
I gotta look at the shit at work. Like, what are you talking about? Like, no, stop.
Yeah. I think Chris Zito is one of the nicest guys in the world, and he puts out good material, but he's definitely into the furry scene, and unabashedly. But yeah, if you look at my I think I put the post up yesterday, I think it was last night, of the Arcane Trickster.
Okay, I'm seeing it right here.
That's a good example of the layout style I'm working with right now.
Oh, that is super clean.
I think it's so clean, and it reduces page bloat like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and if I didn't include the subclass table in there about like the Arcane Trickster features thing, this would basically be 3/4 of a page with a spell casting feature.
Yeah.
And if that was the kind of thing that you wanted to do on the Luchador, where we're looking at like, how can we? It depends on how many pages you want to go with it, and whether or not we do want to do print in the future.
Yeah, in the future, I'm doing print pretty much after Puppeteer is done. I'm gonna go back to jumping on Luchador because I want to do one more update really, that adds some, like maybe like 2 more subclasses, and then adds in some NPC stat blocks and magic items.
Okay.
That's like general, but pretty much to give us enough pages and content so that we can put it in print.
Yeah, we just need I think it's 18 or more pages, and then it would be totally good to go for that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like to look at this. I think it's very clean, very like, I mean, the information is right there. We don't need to keep saying like it's 3rd level Arcane Trickster feature. It's 3rd level Arcane Trickster. That's when you get this thing. And people know what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah, this is super clean. It's super easy to read, but like it still feels 5e.
Yeah, so part of the experiment with this was Mrs. Eves, the header that they use for a lot of the 5e stuff.
Yeah.
It's got a little too many problems for me. Since it's small caps and it's all like regular, I want to say it's called tabular lining. Everything is supposed to be pretty much of the same width, and because of that, it bloats out headers quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I think the thing that's going to actually make headers work out really well for game text is for them to be bold but condensed like this. So like, once you do that, you can also combine the level up there in the same row and we're already saving like what is most likely about 2 or 3
Right.
features worth of
Space.
line space just by doing that, you
Yeah.
know. So that's kind of what I was thinking of as I was working on kind of cleaning up stuff for this tome I've been working on. But yeah, man, we'll take a look at that whenever we get back on the luchador.
All right. Yeah, for sure. Ready, man.
All right, brother. Well,
All right.
you have a good one, and I will talk to you very soon.
All right. You too, man. You take care.
Later.
All right, later. All right. Okay, so we're going to rework Enchanted Puppet right now with the suggestions on pretty much converting Tiny Servant over into the first level class. We'll do that right now. I just need to run to the restroom. I'm having too much liquid to running through my body. I do need to run to the restroom again. It's a good thing to drink water, but it's also a bad thing to drink water sometimes. So yeah, give me a sec. I'll be right back. We're gonna work on this. We'll probably work on converting Enchanted Puppet into the Tiny Servant-esque feature, and then what we will do is then, depending on how long that takes, we'll jump back on to Spellbinding Performance and really figure out how to make it work and have it become a single target feature, or at least a different kind of AoE feature at the same time too. I think putting this class into some sort of support / debuff role is probably the way to really go, especially with how enchantment and illusions really work in the game. So yeah, so just give me a sec. Let me run to the restroom, and then we'll jump back on it. All right. So what I'm going to do, we're going to take all these spellbinding performance ideas and move them out or copy them. Okay. And then paste them elsewhere. I've been getting a lot better at like not throwing away ideas on accident, because what ends up happening is that maybe based off of something we've done later, we might go back to something, and then if it's deleted, we forget exactly what we had in the first place. So I've been getting a lot better at like trying to save stuff I worked on. So good thing is though, all right, with the Puppeteer, since we're using like a pack magic system, right? The kinds of features we don't need too many features. One thing to really think about too. All right, let me save this idea here. One thing to really look at too is like some level of modularity, because we are using a pack magic system. So to be aware of that. And we do need to have some level of modularity, because that is where the strength and power of pack magic actually comes from. I don't want to have an invocation system. I think it's very, very easy to just kind of reskin the warlock in a way to be that way, and just like you just have this invocation system that just further customizes your puppet, right? That's not necessarily what I want out of this. That's an interesting idea for the spellbinding performance. It can single target, and if you burn a pack slot, you target up to the pack slot level and treats immunity to charm as resistance. That'd be interesting. We'll get to spellbinding performance. I think because that is going to be our bread and butter feature for this class, right? Obviously, the enchanted puppet is going to be like the core class identity, while spellbinding performance, I want it to be the main class mechanic in a way. So I think one thing I try to do when I'm approaching classes, this is one thing I wanted to always do, is bring a different play style to the game that is not already featured, and convey certain fantasies that are obviously not supported in 5e. This is what I feel like accomplished with the Luchador. That is what I want to do with the Dark Knight class I'm working on. I want to introduce a different playstyle on top of like allowing people to convey a certain fantasy that's not fulfilled in the game, or not fulfilled well. So this is what I'm trying to aim for with the Puppeteer 2. So that's why like we're gonna have some modular system. It's just not gonna be a reskin of the Warlock in a way, but also offer a different playstyle. I'm thinking okay, let's see. I'll figure it out. I think I still want to go with the idea that the subclass is going to offer you features that can allow you to adapt the spellbinding performance. All right, give me a sec. Actually, guys, phone call really quick. All right. Sorry, the wife called. She's at the store. Wanted to show me something. All right. So yeah. So we'll get back to Spellbinding Performance. We'll figure it out. I think in terms of what I liked, what Terran did, Indestructible did with the Zodiac is that his modularity in the Zodiac is all based around the cantrips, and you're able to, depending on what constellation your class is aligned to, you can get access to different cantrips while still also being aligned with the constellation that your subclasses is, which I'm like, it's really neat. It plays really, really well. Um, it's been fun to play that class and kind of see how that is, but also to make up for while the Warlock has modularity in pack boons and in invocations, since he doesn't, the Zodiac doesn't have that level modularity. He added more subclass or not class features that help boost up the class, and I like that route a bit, instead of kind of creating this like build. Really, what I'm trying to avoid is like this really build your puppet, build your pet class feature. We see it a lot. I'm not really a fan of it personally. I think early on in 5e when I played, I would have been like super hyped up on it. Now that I'm going into it, I think there's other ways to convey like these sort of like duo pet-esque class ideas, where you don't have to have this really hyper customized and dense system for it. Part of the things I really like is when I look at a class, and this is for third parties, not so much for like straight up D&D, but like when I look at third party, when I look at the first 2 levels of class in a third party, I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is the fantasy, this is the mechanics, this is what I'm going to be doing, and this is what I can do. And sometimes I think in a quest to add more depth and more modularity in the third party scene, sometimes they get a little too lost in the sauce. But to each their own. Like, sometimes those kind of mechanics, that's what people want sometimes too in their games. So like, all for you, for me, that's not what I live for. Like, first 2 levels tell me this is what I'm going to be doing, this is the fantasy, this is what I'm going to be playing, this is like that immediately, this is what I want. All right, so we're going to be looking at this. We need to... Okay, tiny servant of class. Okay, we're going to just also want to... We're going to open this tab up. Okay, get rid of this. Sorry. Okay, so what we're gonna do, based on that formatting, we're just gonna take the spell here, and then we need to create a stab block. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Insert. Let's insert a box, a table. Hold on. We're gonna need 1, 2. Oh my god. Okay. It's not really. It's really one column with 1, 2, 4, 5 rows. With 5 rows, with 1 row having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. So, all right, so this is what I'm going to do. Since we need to have 6, 5 and 6 here. I'm gonna keep Tiny Servant off to the side. Kind of this. How to format this. Okay. Merge cells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my god. That's it. Table. 6 and 5. Here it is. Oh, it was the other way around. Merge. 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 And merge. Okay. All right, so yeah. Okay, let's do this. Oh my god. Probably go for maybe like another hour, hour and a half. Also, looking at the time, I do have to head out and go hang out with my family today. Do a little barbecue. I hope you guys are also enjoying your 3-day weekend. If you guys have Monday off too, it's Labor Day, and if you guys don't have tomorrow off and are working, we appreciate it. Earn that time and a half. Earn that time and a half. Wish you could have it off also. Okay. All right. I'm gonna change the music. What do we want? What do we want? We have lo-fi right now. Let me put it back. I think I lowered it a little too low. All right, let's get some little chip tune. Little chip tune. Yeah, so after pretty much I want to get to a good point where like I'm comfortable with the Puppeteer so that it's testable, right? And while it's in this sort of testing phase, then what I'll probably do is hop over to Luchador and sort of really work some of that stuff out, or I might just work on Luchador update offline, because I do want to get that update really done. It will be the heavyweight update, and it will probably be the last real update to the class until maybe the new release of 5e comes out. The update. The in general idea I want behind that one for Luchador is we're gonna add two new subclasses. Two new subclasses for sure, maybe 3, but I'm only looking at 2. One that is going to be focusing on grappling, but also add a different kind of like idea behind the grapple. What I mean by that is just like add the element. I think it's the one I have is going to be based around electricity. So whenever you grapple people, you're shocking the hell out of them. I know I have an idea for a taunting fiend subclass. Come on, man. Let me see what I'm trying to say. Add 3 times the Puppeteer level and hit points to the puppet so it grows with you. That is true. Hate the Rakas. Azalar. No. We'll go with our tried and true. Here we go. Yeah. So it's yeah, we are going to a more pet route with this, which is fine. Not like I was trying to avoid it, but it just makes a lot more sense to if we're going to be turning Tiny Servant into a kind of class feature where you're going to ritual cast it. But yeah, we do need yeah. Do that. Strength. Okay. Damage immunities. Blinded, charmed, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, senses, senses, we're not going to give it blindside, I don't think. I'll figure out what kind of sight we're going to give it. What we need to do is look at other pet stat blocks and see how they handle this, actually. Let's see. Go to D&D Beyond. We're going to pull up Tasha's really quick on the side. Or, hold on. Yeah. Yeah, animate objects. Let's pull up Tasha's really quick. Excuse me. Tasha's. I'm over here talking and didn't realize I was muted. My bad. Sometimes when you switch... Sometimes when I switch my thing, it automatically goes into the mute. So I'm over here talking to myself this whole time. I was all asking Steven how his Baldur's Gate run was all going too. So let's see. Back to what I was saying. So where did I leave off? What I said earlier for pack tactics. Yeah, I know you're joking. But it's not something I don't see like in a subclass. Like a rogue inspired subclass. A thieving little puppet. An urchin puppet. We can do some sort of pack tactic, sneak attack enabling ability there. If it's going to be a ritual once per rest feature, considering a reaction to spend hit die to perform a broken one at full health. I know I'm going to have a warding bond feature pretty early on. So now that we're kind of having the puppet kind of function in this way, it's gonna have some sort of warding bond effect. That'll help it. We're gonna need to be using some spell slots, maybe also to recover your puppet. I started a Dark Urge Murder Monk for a more relaxed time. All right, murder is relaxing. That's what I got out of that whole statement. Oh. What's going on, Nick? Creation is going. We're moving and zooming. We're right now what I'm trying to like get at after Ender Shorter Boy came in and gave some really solid advice and consulting on how to better convey the fantasy and creation of our puppet and do it in a way that that isn't just very straightforward like how I had it. Could you use a puppet as a club or flail to knock people out? No. But what I'm thinking now, and this is the conundrum. This is the conundrum now. Moving my general idea behind spellbinding performance is to have it be this your bread and butter action of your puppet, so that you use it, and that it gives you multiple options. So your one option is going to be from your main class, and the other option would be to your subclass gives you something else. But what I'm thinking now is that having, in a similar way that, because I really liked Mantle of Majesty. Mantle of Majesty is a sick bard, glamour bard subclass feature when it comes to command. And how that plays like this feature, this part of it. Any creature charmed by you automatically fails its saving throw against the command you cast with this feature. So good. But this general idea is having effects trigger off of like your creatures being charmed. So what this will do is, if enemies are charmed by the puppet or by spells that you cast, your subclass features will add additional bonuses to that. Puppet would clearly be more of a sling, whip, or flail. So that's what I'm thinking right now. You have this captivating performance, and that it just tries to charm everybody. It doesn't actually do damage. It's mainly like your main control feature, and that's your bonus action. Boom. Keep trying to just keep charming people. What I need to see though, because most of the time actions, okay, What are some monsters that have an action that require a save? Capsule feature become a puppet, or puppet become real? I don't know if I want to play with the puppet becomes sentient stuff. There's just some weird implication of like slavery discourse, and it's just it becomes an issue. Like, and for me, it's like, while that Pinocchio fantasy is there, and you would like it would, this class could lend itself into that Geppetto stuff. I'm not sure if we really want to go that route. You kind of, yeah, there's some big ick. So, yeah, so pretty much that's one of those things. I think I would just allow that to be handled at the table, then have it baked into the class. You can already do and play that fantasy as an artificer anyway, right? You can already do that as an artificer that's a battlesmith, and you can play that whole idea of like you're actually a Geppetto that is weaponizing your toys, and your pet is your Pinocchio. You can already do that. You can also do that with a wizard, to be honest. We're gonna go that route. So yeah, let's go. We need some monsters. Monsters that have like saving throw built into their stat blocks. I just want to see how they write it, because this creature is not gonna have. Excuse me. Self puppetry then. I think as far as in terms of like dark or like touchy themes, we may be able to we're gonna touch on with the class if we do a class that allows you to control an enemy as your puppet. Ooh, Durgar? Okay. I like how Iray here allows you to choose. That opens that up. Ooh, man. I can't. Okay. We're cooking. 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 Early anime dad, that's messed up. I'm really surprised though. Nobody's tried to convert the Diablo 4 Necromancer into 5e, at least from what I've seen, because it's really interesting on what that class, the way that class is built, and the amount of different builds and variety of playstyles you can do with that, and especially with a Necromancer narrative. I think also the reason that it's a problem, why nobody's really tackled it. I know people have tried to do Necromancers, but not in the same way that Diablo 4's Necromancer is because the fantasy behind Necromancer is like to summon a shit ton of undead, right? You want a shit ton of undead, and the way 5e's action economy breaks down, that is busted, and it's busted because of how much action economy you can give yourself, and how time consuming that can be on gameplay, especially table play. And automated, like a virtual tabletop, you can automate all that shit and you're good to go. Yeah, but I would like. It'd be cool to see like a necromancer inspired class that. Yeah, you could summon some pets or summon a pet, and then there's the other builds that are like, nope, I'm just an AoE Nova blood person, or I just put down debuff shadow stuff, or ice throws bone spikes at you. You'd want a lot of bodies. Yeah, that is. Yeah, Dance Macabre. And it's been a bit since I played Diablo. Really like the game, like gameplay wise. For those that really like to build characters and really like to tinker with systems, Diablo 4 does a really good job of allowing that and the level of customization. I don't know how the balancing is lately. When I last played, they pretty much nerfed the shit out of everybody. So like you felt generally weaker. I know they rolled back some stuff before I stopped playing. But man, those microtransaction season game to service direction they went with the game is like really did kill my buzz on it. And then you get stuff like Baldur's Gate 3 that lets you play D&D when you don't have people to like games you can cancel and stuff, and then there's no microtransactions or anything, you're just playing a game. And then the mod community is going nuts on that game already. They added a mod that adds in way more species into the game. I like the Demonology Warlock from WoW when it came to summons. Oh, okay. When I played Warlock for Warcraft, it was during the Legion era. And a little bit into, what's it called? Battle for Azeroth. I like that I bought BG 3 years ago, same. Don't mind that. But yeah, Legion, Warlock, Demonology was sick because like every spell and every ability you did was like you were just summoning demons, and that felt cool as shit. So yeah, like that was just very, very evocative. Very, very, very evocative. Like if I had like way more extra time to do stuff, I probably would be playing an MMO. I don't think I would be playing WoW. I'd probably be playing Final Fantasy 14, to be honest. The community is a lot nicer, more patient. It's probably one of the nicest online communities I've ever interacted with. And yeah, you don't have to make a bunch of characters with that one. You legitimately just have to have your one character. And the way the class job system works, that you pretty much, as long as you level up, you have multiple classes you have access to. It's sick. Love that system. When I started playing Final Fantasy 14, I played a warrior, so I can tank for my group. And then after that, I ended up, who did I end up going? As soon as I can unlock Red Mage, I started playing that instead. I actually like the Red Mage. The Red Mage, pretty much gameplay loop. I wouldn't hate a 5e version of the old D&D MMO. You can switch jobs between missions in Final Fantasy 14. Yeah. You can just switch jobs on the fly. It's sick. So yeah, like my preferred playstyle or my preferred class to play was Red Mage. But I did, for tanking, if I wanted to tank, I started playing gun. It's the pretty much you're the Gunblade class. I forgot what it's called. Gunbreaker? The Gunbreaker? Pretty much it's Squall. Yeah, it's, from Final Fantasy 8. Gunbreaker class, yeah. I played that one. That one was fun. I started getting into Dark Knight also. For a bit. Like I preferred to tank. In terms of healing, I started getting into some healing stuff too, just to kind of try out that play style. I don't remember what was my preferred healer. Wasn't white mage, but yeah, I forgot which one it was, but it definitely wasn't white mage. It's the game is fun. And then for Warcraft, I have like alts after alt after alt after alt. I wasn't really concerned with, like, especially during Legion, towards the end of Legion, I wasn't really concerned with really raiding and shit, because you can just get pickup groups and kind of raid that route and get your gear. But after I would kind of like get a character to where I was like comfortable with, I would just make another alt for a class I wanted to play. Monk was the shit though. Monk was fun. Monk, Warlock. What was the other ones? I didn't care for Paladin too much anymore. I was like a OG Warcraft Paladin. Like vanilla Warcraft Paladin. Vanilla Warcraft, man. I know a couple streamers I normally watch, they're playing hardcore mode on Warcraft on classic. I was like, that's interesting, it's funny, but I can't go back to old school Warcraft. Attach to the object. Target animates the sprouts with little arms and controls. The spells point. Attach to another. Isn't cared by another creature. The D&D Online Eberron one. Ooh, yeah. I never got to play that one, but that would have been sick to kind of like try out. Just because I really like Eberron. Eberron's super cool. Honestly, probably my favorite 5e or my favorite D&D setting from like from the D&D specific settings. But I do enjoy the Ravnica and Theros made it over to D&D, because those are probably some of Magic's more interesting settings that they've created. I think if they were to release more Magic setting books as D&D supplements, Strixhaven kind of like had potential, but it wasn't really fleshed out. Even for like Magic the Gathering players, that the setting wasn't really that fleshed out, and the conflict wasn't. It was kind of whatever. But Neo Kamigawa would be sick. Would be sick as a 5e setting. You pretty much get your they cracked it in a way that you can get your Cyberpunk game with Magic. Oh yeah, New Capenna would be another really good one. Neo Kamigawa, New Capenna, and then I also want to say, which is the other setting that I think would do really well. Eldraine could do well, but they have to heavily lean on like the fairy tale, fae fantasy of it. Oh, the Phyrexians, yeah. There is opportunity to do the Phyrexian stuff. I think Phyrexians are really probably one of the more developed villains. But man, they really like sped run that story compared to something like what they did with Nicol Bolas for War of the Spark. Yeah, Dominaria can go either way because it is probably it is the fleshed out setting, with the very fact that it's kind of very standard fantasy. I don't think helps it stand out against either Dragonlance or even Forgotten Realms. And that's the unfortunate thing. Like, there's nothing. It's very, very fleshed out. There's a lot of deep lore and history for Dominaria, but it also, like, nothing about it makes it stand out in a really defining way between Dragonlance or Forgotten Realms. Unlike its core themes, because it is just kind of war. Ooh, Tarkir's another good one. But I don't have faith in the D&D team really conveying Tarkir in a really solid way. We're gonna go back to Tarkir. They did announce, like, in one of the most recent Magic the Gathering I guess panels that they had on I don't know if it was at Magic Fest or at Comic-Con, one of the ones during the summer, that they just said we're going back to Tarkir, which is going to be sick. Tarkir was one of, like, my favorite times of playing Magic. It was when I was, like, really heavily competitive. But the setting was, like, super fun. I don't trust the D&D team to really hire the correct people to convey Tarkir as a setting book. Like, they do the bare minimum with a lot of their setting books lately. So one that has a lot of cultural, it takes a lot of inspiration from pretty much East or Asian cultures. They're not going to hire the right people to do it. I don't remember when Sliver started. I joined Magic afterwards when Slivers were already a thing. Yeah, Tarkir is the best taken as a campaign seed for how to do time travel. Yeah, that's why I'm wondering what they're gonna do now when we go back to it, because it's kind of its place in the story of Magic is very, very a long seated thing of building up the Gatewatch to eventually lead to Nicol Bolas. So it's like you got Ugin returned due to Sarkon, which is probably one of my favorite planeswalkers, and then that seeded into Return to Zendikar, fighting Eldrazi, and finally like completing that war, and then fighting going back to Innistrad, fighting Emrakul there, and then seeding into like War of the Spark. It was just like a really big long game of like eventually getting into the Nicol Bolas stuff, which is cool. But Tarkir is one of those stories, like it was a story for the overall setting of Magic and not necessarily a story for Tarkir. Yeah, and I think I don't know if they hinted at going back to Lorwyn. Let me see. I know next year. We're gonna take a little break from this. 2024 early schedule roadmap. There is a roadmap. Here we go. This is the roadmap. Oh, let me. Okay. So this is a roadmap for Magic for next year. So they're remastering Ravnica. I think it's the original Ravnica they're remastering. Then we're gonna get into Murders at Karlov Manor, which is a Ravnica set, but it's pretty much a murder mystery that's happening in Karlov Manor, which is an Orzhov owned like manor. So the Black White Guild, the bourgeoisie, the rich. These rich ghosts are gonna. Somebody dies there. So there's that. Of course, Fallout, whatever. And then Outlaws of Thunder Junction. They're doing Wild West magic. That's gonna be interesting. What I'm kind of hoping. So they're definitely some of the art that they teased on this one was gonna be geared towards cowboys and yeah, pretty much they're gonna draw on the aesthetics of the Wild West. So you're gonna get they're also gonna have Native American representation in there, which is pretty fucking sick in a very magicified setting. The cowboys, I really hope they're just not some really whitewashed shit. I'm really hoping it's just not typical like display of cowboys that we see in a lot of like American media. I really hope they do draw upon like a little bit more of the history of like the imagery of the cowboy. It's like, yeah, play on those like American cowboy tropes, but also look at the history and realizing that most cowboys were not white. So yeah, so hoping they do play with that, some of that stuff. But knowing Magic, they're gonna kind of go with the low hanging fruit kind of stuff. I'm just interested to see how they convey and mix Magic and Wild West. I really like how they whenever they merge fantasy with another genre. I think, despite like Magic shortcomings, they do a really good job of like merging genres together. Like Neo Kamigawa was pretty sick in that regard, where they mix cyberpunk sci-fi with fantasy. So hoping they kind of do a really good job of doing this with the Western. And then Bloomborough is also interesting too, because that is Redwall, Mouse Guard-esque kind of world. Anthropomorphic animals doing fantasy. So that, and Duskmourn House of Horror is a whole plane that is a haunted house that is going to be featuring modern horror instead of like classic gothic horror that was in Innistrad. That's gonna be interesting. All right, give me a sec. I was getting a phone call, so let me return it. Okay, there we go. Let me see if I can find what else is coming in for 2025, because I know that they started hinting at a lot of stuff. Oh yeah, they did. Oh yeah, they did. Okay, there is one picture. Okay. So what we know for 2025 for Magic, this is going to be super interesting. For their lineup of what is to come. For sure, going back to Tarkir, that is one of the settings they said we are returning. There's going to pretty much be a cross-planar setting book where it's Death Race, it's Twisted Metal. They're vehicles legitimately racing across the multiverse. It's sick. It's a cool idea. And then there's going to be a sci-fi setting, like full on like Mass Effect as sci-fi fantasy setting. Which is interesting. Very, very interesting on what they're gonna do for that one. I enjoy Magic really experimenting and doing this kind of stuff. It's gonna give the game a lot more longevity and appeal. But I also feel for the old school fans that are just wanting a fantasy game with in card form. But in order for Magic to really like continue to grow and stuff, it has to like pull in from other influences. Yeah, so okay, I just want to show this is art right here. So yeah, we're getting like Native American influence on this one. This is super sick. And I know they're doing the Lost Mines of Ixalan, where it's going to be what's the theory? Oh, Hollow Earth theory. They're playing, or the Hollow Earth like theory and trope and genre and stories, where there's actually a hidden Earth realm inside the center of the setting of Ixalan. So they're gonna be playing with that idea. So there's gonna be like more dinosaurs and more giant monsters and stuff. So that's gonna be pretty sick. But I know that they did this time contact and worked with Mesoamerican and pretty much Mexican consultants to really help flesh out and do a better job of depicting a Mesoamerican culture. So yeah, so I know they did work with them on this, and I think it's very apparent that it's because Magic has the budget to do this, and they do a better job than the D&D team is. They actually contact and work with for the length of the entire like development process and the art and everything of conveying and developing a world that is. We saw this. They did a really big push with Kamigawa, and when they were really drawing on the influences of Japan for that one. And so I know that Magic does a better job than the D&D team. The Magic team makes a shit ton of money. So it's like it makes a lot more sense. They're going to have more resources, but man, I don't understand how Wizards as a Coast operates as two separate companies. You know what I mean? So either way. Either way. What I'm probably gonna do, we're gonna finish up this enchanted puppet thing, and then I'm gonna call it for today, so I can kind of relax and get up before I have to go over to hang out with my family today. We're gonna do a little barbecue. It's like they have two, like pretty much the way Wizard of the Coast operates. It's really weird. Pretty much the D&D team and the Magic the Gathering team, there's really no like crossover. The last really crossover we really saw with them was the D&D Baldur's Gate set, and converting the D&D property into a Magic the Gathering set. And before that, it was Strixhaven. Like that was really it. But in what I mean by like, there's no, that was just crossover for product. What I mean is the way they operate internally as a company. It's really weird. Like the Magic the Gathering team just kind of just operates and does their own thing. Well, and they have their same cultural issues in regards to like how workers and stuff are treated. It is very much a work culture thing within Wizards of the Coast. People that are in marginalized groups also like are mistreated on both teams, and have been. It's been documented. It's been out there. And obviously, people that work there are underpaid, etc. So it's also there's a class struggle within the company that is apparent in both teams. But in terms of what I mean by a little bit more cohesive, how the Wizard operates, is like, if you're going to have resources to, say, hire cultural consultants and then also like outside designers that are very much educated and aware of how to convey certain things, why does one team get to do that all the time but the other team doesn't? You know what I mean? So yeah, there's a lack of communication. There's a lack of just internal, like, really utilizing the resources to make the best product for both other things instead of just allocating it to one team. So it's frustrating. Like, as a fan of like their games, obviously, it's like, man, I very much play D&D more. I haven't touched Magic the Gathering in a very long time. I just keep up with it in passing, but I haven't actually really played. I think Wilds of Eldraine comes out next week. I know the pre-release was this weekend. My buddies were playing. So, yeah, man. Think of in a way, if they structured it in a way that they structured their company in a way that they can actually like utilize their resources efficiently from both properties, you'd have a lot better product. But, you know, capitalism. In addition, you can spend, okay, so, in addition, you can spend 10 minutes. Okay, so our first level. At first level, you can spend 10 minutes creating and infusing your puppet with magic. You can do this during a short or long rest. You touch one tiny small magic puppet that is attached to... my god. Yeah, I'm looking forward to like more magic crossovers. That'd be pretty sick. I want more in 5e. Hopefully with the release of like the new update and stuff, that they get back to releasing some of that stuff. But I think the way Strixhaven sold and shit, we might not get another one. We also have a different person in head of magic, because the person that was in head, we have a new person head of wizards that has different priorities. Obviously, the last person we had at Wizards is now in charge of Hasbro. So, you know, and it seemed like his strategy was at least still driven by like money and greed. Obviously, just try to sell more shit. That's pretty much what has happened at the Magic the Gathering side. They're just pumping out product after product, way too much. But you could tell he was attempting to have some level of like product cohesiveness, and having that level of crossover, whether it was successful or not. It was still happening, and we haven't seen that with the new head of Wizards. So, at first level, you can spend 10 minutes creating and infusing your puppet with magic. You can do this during a short or long rest. When you do, you touch one tiny non-magical puppet that isn't attached to another object or surface and isn't being carried by another creature. You. Oh my god. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to turn you off right now. Just need to turn you off right now. Being annoying. Being annoying. Okay. Yeah. Okay. First level, you spend 10 minutes creating and infusing your puppet with magic. When you do, you can do this during a short or long rest. When you do, you touch tiny creating and enchanting the puppet this week. Consumes changeably worth of raw materials. See enchanted puppet for your statistics. The bonus action, you can mentally command the creature if it's within 30 feet of you. If you control. Okay. You decide what action the creature will take and where it will move during its turn, or can issue a simple general command such as to fetch keys. And you issue no commands this turn. All right, give me a sec, guys. Be quick, grabbing something to drink. Okay. All right, one of the things. Okay, we need to look at who. Oh. You said Duragar, right? Duragar. Oh, Duragar. Excuse me. Duragar. And Duragar. I like Duragar. They have a really tragic, very, very tragic backstory. I think it's very, very interesting. I don't really care too much for the slavery shit that they have put into its lore. But as like as a people that have been pretty much shunned out of by their dwarven cousins that have overcome their own hardships and are trying to find their place, and with their god, the original god Morden, kind of shunning them too. It is a very, very interesting, pretty much to see like a in a fantasy world how a peoples can survive and consistently overcome oppression and where they find their strength, and why they pretty much have built a culture around that, overcoming and constantly resisting and persevering. I think it's a very, very interesting. They're very, very interesting. It's unfortunately they write them like shit. Like even in Baldur's Gate, like I was like, man, but like you look at the Duragar lore, there's some like really good meat in there, but they wrap it in like, oh, but they're evil because they're dark skinned and they do slave shit, even though they were slaves. Like, you guys had some good basis for some depth, and you guys keep messing it up. But yeah, if you're looking at Duragar lore, they have very, very interesting. It ties them into like the greater multiverse conflicts with aberrations, specifically mind flayers, but also where their place is amongst their dwarven cousins and their reverence for Morden. Okay, let's see. And not what I'm looking for. Duragar Amaor. Duragar Kalvalrakni. Okay, Duragar Alchemist. Okay. Oh my god. Okay. Engine of Pain. That's a snake, man. Spider. All right, what I'm looking for is a monster. If you guys can help me out here, a monster. Do I have this? Do I have this? Please. Please say I do. Please say I do. No, I don't remember which books I have access to anymore on this thing. On D&D Beyond. I'm looking for a monster that they don't actually do an attack roll. They just force a save. That is not a spell. Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, I have access to the fantastical races. Sick. Mindmaster Soul Blade. Babao. Mind Mastery. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Mind Mastery Dart. We're gonna see a beholder. Beholder. The beholder shoots 3 of the following magical eye rays at random. Dolgaunt from Ebron. Well, it still worked out because I'm looking at Duragar my master, and they have and as an action they have mind mastery, so Dolganot, yeah. Beholder shoots 3 of the following. Black Abishai. All right, so the idea for, you know, screw it. No, we're okay. I'm just gonna go with the. I think it's gonna be hard to write into this stat block right here. Spellbinding performance. To what my idea is, have the subclass offer a different version of it. I think what is better off is that we attempt to have a charm base effect here. And then based off the subclass gives you a feature that triggers off the enemy being charmed. So like, for example, spellbinding performance, you charm X amount of people, they could see you within a feat, they have to make the save or whatever, they fail. But the subclass feature can say, hey, whenever you have your puppet use spellbinding performance, the creatures that become charmed also are blinded, like if it's a shadow, right? Like a shadow puppet. Boom. When you use this feature. I think that's going to be the better way to do it, or just give you a new action altogether. Be a way to do it. So that formatting. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, so let's pull up spellbinding performance back here. Where are we at? Okay. We're just gonna take this and we're gonna clean this up. We're just take this, clean it up. Hold on. All star creatures within 10 feet of the puppet that can see it must succeed a wisdom saving throw or become charmed by you and your puppet until the end of your next turn. Okay, there's that. There is that. Okay. First level, you spend 10 minutes creating and infusing your puppet with magic. You can do this during your short or long rest. When you do, you touch one tiny non-magic puppet that. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna do now. It's already gonna be. It's 2:35. All right. I'm gonna head off here. I will be back this next week. I think there might be some change up on like just regular streaming. I think I'm just might be streaming solely on Sundays now. As much as I like to try to stream on Wednesday night, sometimes lately it's not been possible. Sundays is always pretty easy for me to do it, to stream all the time. Very, very rare when I can't have a Sunday. And I like streaming during the day and so much instead of at night. So that's probably what's going to be happening. I'll make some changes. Upcoming, anything else upcoming going on? I think, excuse me, upcoming stuff for me. Let me think on that really quick. But first, definitely go check out Skyzephyrs, sponsoring this stream. Skyzephyrs, if you don't remember or you haven't checked it out yet, there's a link in the description below. It is a third-party 5e supplement that looks to add airship and aerial combat into your game. And so if you're not satisfied with the stuff found in Spelljammer or don't want to take the time to convert the ship rules from Ghost of Saltmarsh, or maybe some of the other options you've seen out there might be a little too clunky and don't fit really well with your style of game, I would say definitely check out Skyzephyrs. Their goal is to make it easier to fit into 5e combat, and also they're adding a digital tool so to make it even easier for you to play and use their supplement. So definitely go check it out if it seems right up your alley. Aerial combat in general is something that's always like, it's ship and aerial combat is something that really people have been wanting out of 5e, and not everybody's really satisfied with what was introduced in Spelljammer. So yeah, definitely go check it out. I have a link in the description. If you end up backing it, there I think it still has like 2 more weeks left. You end up backing it, I get a little kickback. So you're supporting me, you're supporting them, and you get something cool to play with. So definitely go check it out. In terms of what else is coming up for me, in September, the month of September, we're only going to be streaming. There's going to be no content. I'm kind of taking a little break from doing some videos. I'm doing like not so much a channel relaunch, but I'm working on some like new little graphics for this little guy that keeps jumping. So you're going to see that when in October. We're also going to be getting back into character builds. So definitely expect to see that. I'm seeing all the people are watching on the channel. It's character builds. I don't mind doing them. I think for me, it got to a point where it felt really repetitive. So expect to see that. They're either going to come back in either long form or short form. We're going to be doing a little bit of both. We're also going to be focusing on some ways to approach character building influenced by Baldur's Gate 3. And how you can do builds in Baldur's Gate 3 or play them at the table. That's kind of what we're going to be doing with some of the character builds too. So taking my addiction to Baldur's Gate 3 and applying it to the games. It's been fun trying to like tinker around with character builds again due to Baldur's Gate 3. It's been a good time. So yeah, definitely going to go be doing that. So yeah, and expect that. Also, if you're not a member of the Patreon or you're not a member here on YouTube, there is a new episode of Unpack, the podcast. So definitely go check that out. What's going on, JP? I'm about to head out right now, but I'm gonna post my latest on the Discord in a bit, so you can definitely check it out. We did some major overhaul, we did some major overhaul on like the main mechanic. Taryn, aka Indestructible Boy, gave us some good feedback on some stuff on how to really better convey it. I still think it needs some work to tinker with to make it more concise and feel like a ritual casting. So yeah, definitely love your input and your ability to kind of clean up the language that I'm not good at. So yeah, definitely looking forward to see what you think of this. So yeah, that pretty much about does it here. So if I don't stream this Wednesday, I will be back Sunday. And I might, depending on what happens, I might do a little bit of a later stream. Like I'll start at 1 instead of starting at 11 today, but we'll see. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week. If you're not in the Discord and you want to keep up with me, you want to hang out with everybody from the chat, you want to see what's going on with the Puppeteer, or even if I randomly get an itch to work on Project Dark Knight class, definitely go to the Discord. We're pretty much hanging out, talking there. So yeah, link is in the description also for that. So until then, guys, you guys take care. Have a good, happy 3-day weekend if you can enjoy it. And if you're working tomorrow, make that bread, make the money, get that time and a half. So yeah, you guys take care and have a good one.